How's it all, and welcome to this first edition of Sports Reactions here on Sports Lockdown. It's been named that for obvious reasons. I've got some lockdown grey developing, a little rough around the edges. I need to sort that out, and my hair is probably longer than it's been in a few years. Please subscribe to the channel, push the notification bell, and I'll be doing follow-up videos, but definitely reacting to any announcements by sports organizations around the world when they put out schedules. So what am I doing today? Well, it's a golf reaction. As you can see, this weekend was Easter weekend, which is extremely special to me and my family. And it also would have been Masters weekend, which is extremely close to my heart, literally, as you can see. So I would have liked to have been sitting here on a Monday, looking back at a wonderful Masters, as it normally is, and seeing Tiger Woods hand over a new green jacket to a new winner. That's of course if he didn't defend his title. Let's get into the specifics of what the various tours have decided, and we'll be focusing on the PGA Tour today. In recent weeks, the global golf community has come together to collectively put forward a calendar of events that will, we hope, serve to entertain and inspire golf fans around the world. We are grateful to our respective partners, sponsors and players who have allowed us to make decisions, some of them very tough, in order to move the game and the industry forward. So, the big changes, and they're normally based around the majors, of course. The US Open, previously scheduled from June 15th to 21st, they named the whole week there, not the specific 4 days, at Winged Foot Golf Club in Mamaroneck, New York, has been officially rescheduled to September 14 to 20. So good news, the US Open is still happening. The R&A unfortunately decided that the Open in 2020 needed to be cancelled and will next be played at Royal St. George's in 2021. The PGA of America is announcing that the PGA Championship is now scheduled to take place from August the 3rd to the 9th and will remain at TPC Harding Park in San Francisco. It was originally scheduled for May the 11th to the 17th. Interesting, last year it moved to May and became the year's second major. It was always Glory's last shot, as they used to call it. Well, now it's Glory's first shot. It's the first major of the season. Amazing what can change in a couple of seasons. Furthermore, great news here. The PGA reconfirmed the Ryder Cup remains as originally scheduled from September the 22nd to the 27th at Whistling Straits in Kohler, Wisconsin. And Augusta National has identified November the 9th to the 15th as the intended week to host the 2020 Masters, which was previously scheduled for this past weekend. The great news about that: we only have to wait 6 months until next year's Masters. Booyah! We'll take that one. Thank you very much. Normally it's a long wait from July, when the Open takes place, to then April next year for the Masters. So only 6 months between two Masters. Wow. You've got to see the silver lining in these things, right? The PGA Tour worked with its host organizations and the title sponsors to move the regular season finale, the Wyndham Championship, and all 3 FedEx Cup playoff events 1 week later, starting the week of August the 10th and concluding with a Monday, September 7th Labor Day finish for the Tour Championship. So everything has been cancelled for the next few weeks still, because as far as lockdowns and quarantines around the world, we don't quite know what's going to be the final decision. I know Donald Trump is talking about getting back to work in the next few weeks, which will be great for the PGA Tour. Let's hope that happens, honestly. So everything's been cancelled until early May. The Charles Schwab Challenge at this point is the first one on the schedule, May the 21st. Then the Rocket Mortgage Classic, May the 28th at Detroit Golf Club. Then the Memorial, which of course is at Muirfield Village, the house that Jack built. We can't cancel Jack's tournament, for goodness sake. That's June the 4th. Then from June the 11th, the RBC Canadian Open at St. George's Golf and Country Club in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The following weekend should have been the US Open, which has been moved. So what could move into that spot? Well, the PGA Tour has said that they're considering that they could move certain events down into those open gaps. Well, if it was me, I'd move the Players' Championship. They did play 1 week, or should I say 1 round. Why not start at round 2? I still don't understand why they cancelled it at that point. I mean, everyone was there. They might as well just have played. Don't allow fans onto the course, but let the players do their job and let them complete their job. So I'd move the Players' Championship there. Let me know what you think as far as a possible tournament that could move to that weekend starting on June the 18th. And then we have the Travelers Championship from June the 25th, the WGC FedEx St. Jude Invitational, TPC Southwind Memphis, Tennessee. I have been to Memphis before. Ended up watching the Memphis Grizzlies beat the Miami Heat in overtime. It was certainly an experience, that's for sure. Then the John Deere Classic from July the 9th, and we have the Barbasol Championship from July the 16th, which would have been the alternate event to the Open. So do they just play that event and they benefit from having a couple of big names there that they wouldn't have had before? Now, maybe that's the way to go. Then the 3M Open, July the 23rd. July the 30th, another open weekend where the men's Olympic golf competition would have taken place. So if you go back and look at the tournaments that were cancelled or postponed, I've always been a fan of the RBC Heritage. I played at Harbour Town Golf Links at Hilton Head Island. Beautiful views there. You know, I suppose they could move that one there possibly. Maybe the AT&T Byron Nelson, the great Byron Nelson. Why not? Remember when I was a youngster, I won a King Cobra driver for answering the question, who beat Davis Love and Phil Mickelson in a playoff to win the Byron Nelson Classic? Well, of course it was Jesper Parnevik. That was around 2000 as far as I can remember. And I got some good rounds out of that King Cobra driver, I must say. Okay, so the Byron Nelson or the RBC Heritage could move to that weekend. Then, of course, the next weekend is the PGA Championship at TPC Harding Park, followed by the Wyndham Championship, which is a week later at Sedgefield Country Club. The start of the playoffs, the Northern Trust, TPC Boston, Norton, Massachusetts. The BMW Championship, Olympia Fields Country Club in Illinois. And then, of course, the Tour Championship, taking place at East Lake in Atlanta. And then, a couple of weeks later, it's the US Open. Now, I want to ask the question why they didn't play the US Open before the playoffs and move the playoffs another week later. Interesting. It'd be good to possibly have the US Open as part of the schedule building up to the Tour Championship. But there's who knows how many decisions that need to be made in terms of moving tournaments. So I'm sure they've got a reason. And then the next weekend, the Ryder Cup. And I think we're all ecstatic that that is still taking place. In terms of team sports, there are few things that rival the Ryder Cup in my view. And I thoroughly look forward to it every year. Even though I'm a South African and the President's Cup is fun, and this past year was extremely competitive. Ernie Els did a great job as captain. There's just something special about the Ryder Cup, so I'm glad that hasn't changed. And then we've got 6 weeks until the Masters. So my question is, why isn't that being played in early October? You'd think it'd be a little warmer then. We will get into more specifics about the Masters and what changes in terms of a November showing down Magnolia Lane. So look out for that video. So yeah, I mean, that's the schedule for the season at this stage. What do you think of it? What do you think of the majors being moved, the Open being cancelled, how they've structured things? What are they going to do for next season's schedule? What's your situation in terms of lockdown and quarantines? What can you watch in terms of sport? What can you do? Can you go down to your local golf club? Can you play golf? I mean, that's social distancing, isn't it? Playing golf. You hundreds of meters or yards away from everyone else. You know, unless you're playing with a family member, you've got to play on your own. I think there should be some leeway in terms of that. But not in this country. No, we've got to go straight to the grocery store and back home. And if you've seen walking around, you're in trouble. And there have been a few issues. Let's not get into that. I might be here all night. Yeah, as I mentioned, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Give me your comments. What other sports would you like me to focus on? Please let me know if there's an announcement of new matches for any tournament or any league around the world. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about anything related to the video. But for now, it's goodbye for me, Brendan Liebenberg. Cheers.